The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hi, welcome to this week's live broadcast of the Revelation Show with me, your host, Paul Stevenson, here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com on this Friday, the 11th of November. And I must say, it is so wonderful to do this show with the Trump victory behind us. Such a relief, such a day for just excitement, a new hope, not just in the US, see the rebirth of the real America with the real Americans voting in a real president, but the ripple effects right across the world economically for world stability. It's just so exciting. And on the show coming up, I'm just going to introduce them, is the Pettibone twins, T.S. Pettibone. They recently, earlier in the year, they had their book out, and they basically wrote a science fiction book. And they are also becoming well known in their own right as political analysts and commentators. They appeared on the Alex Jones show, InfoWars, and I'm very, very happy to have them on the show today. Hatred Day is their science fiction book, and we're going to be talking about that and much more. And are you guys with us?
Yes, we are. Hi, Paul.
Hi, how are you getting on?
Pretty well. How about you?
Yeah, it's such an exciting time. I've just touched on it at the beginning of the show. I'm having a little bit of cognitive dissonance, if I'm honest. It hasn't really sank in that Trump's managed to pull this off.
No way. I don't think it's going to sink in really until Inauguration Day. I mean, yeah, I'm still like the night it was kind of, even from the beginning, you kind of like the sense in the air was that Trump was going to win. You know, he just kept winning states and, things. So everyone was pretty excited the whole time. There was not a lot of, tension and suspense, except maybe for Florida. Like, it was so close, Florida, and everyone was just kind of like, it was nail biting Florida. But then everything else, yeah, it was pretty smooth ride, and we were kind of celebrating the whole time. So
yeah, because it went, I think Ohio was in the bag, which was imperative that he got Ohio. And
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and then as you comment, we were all watching. He had a slight lead in Florida, but you didn't want to get too excited, but you were getting excited anyway. And it was just a clean sweep. It was just he did Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and I'll tell you, the comparisons to the night of the Brexit could not be more striking. It started off with the Brexit, the Remain campaign went in there very confident. All the polls were very pro-Remain, a bit like it's exactly the same in the Trump situation. All the polls were for Clinton. They're expecting a Clinton victory. And it only took, I would say, 90 minutes, and the whole thing changed with the Brexit. And I just thought, this is exactly the same thing. And obviously it came to fruition that he did in fact win, and it was just unbelievable. I got no sleep that night. I got no sleep at the Brexit night, and it's such an exciting time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we actually watched the Brexit really closely too, as it was happening. And I mean, at that point, we hadn't come out publicly, as more conservatives, or that we were, supporting Trump. So we were kind of watching secretly, and we were kind of still in a more liberal sphere. And so everyone was freaking out, just losing it. And yeah, it was exciting to watch, and we were really happy, how it turned out. And then it was kind of like, well, now we just need to get Trump, but we have to get Trump. It'll be, the closing victory, I guess. I mean, the way it's going now, though, I don't know. I'm sure you've seen there are a lot of riots going on right now. I mean, they started out as peaceful protests, but they're escalating into riots around the U.S. right now. And a lot of people are pulling up information about how these are actually being funded by George Soros, because moveon.org. So, the signs are like pre-made. They're busting in the protesters, So it's just a lot of, you know, they pretend like all of this is real outrage, but it's all a show.
Yeah, they were actually caught putting ads on Craigslist for protesters and paying them.
And they're handing out flyers before the protests
with
about
instructions.
Like being aggressive towards police and stuff.
There is very little natural enthusiasm for anything to do with Hilary Clinton and the establishment, so they have to manufacture it. They have to pay people. You know, to be honest, when I saw that the turnout was high, I was pretty confident that Trump would do it, because, you know, you do not get a growth in turnout for just more of the same. You get people turning out like the Brexit. It was a really high turnout, and you get people who've never voted before. You get people who are just disillusioned or haven't voted for 10, 20 years. And when you see the turnout like that, you know that people are coming out to vote for change. I'm just surprised. You know, the only negative thing I thought about the Brexit is that I thought these guys are really going to knuckle down now and really try to make sure that they don't, lose the golden goose of the United States.
Right.
After the sort of sucker blow to the EU, because for Trump to be president is even bigger than the UK coming out of the EU. And I thought these guys are really going to learn from the Brexit situation, but they didn't. It was exactly the same thing. They did the same thing. And I think their polls actually backfire, because they're little liberal snowflakes. They sit at home and they swallow it up because they believe all of the nonsense, and they're just brainwashed, including the fact that they're going to have a comfortable victory, and they don't go out and vote, and it backfires on them.
Yeah, there was a lot of that after Trump won. Just Twitter was blowing up. There were so many videos that came out the night after. People were genuinely shocked that Trump had won, because the mainstream media was making it seem like Hillary Clinton was ahead, like the whole time. So.
Yeah, it's just more proof that, the same people that, support Hillary Clinton, that they believe everything comes out of mainstream media, and they got it wrong. And now they're doing exactly what the liberals did after Brexit. They're throwing their toys out of the pram, and they're revealing their true nature of who really is the haters, who really has the attitude of entitlement. I like to call them, the criminal culture, decades of brainwashing, manipulation, and the social engineering and the degradation of morality sees its fruits in these Hillary Clinton supporters. Just this arrogance, entitled to, attitude of entitlement, and it's just totally blown up in their face.
Yeah, well, I mean, their foundation is being built off of emotion and not any kind of logic and facts. So when something like this happens, excuse me, they don't know how to handle it. And you can see that from the reaction. They cannot handle it. And I mean, there's actually been a lot of video evidence coming out of Trump supporters being physically assaulted by, because, it came out that they had voted for Trump. There was one yesterday, an 11-year-old boy at school was beat up by a big gang of other boys for voting for Trump.
Election.
Yeah.
It was a mock election.
Yeah. And then today, I haven't read the article yet. It just came out on Drudge that a girl at school, in high school, was beat up for supporting Trump. So I'll watch that video after. But then there was another one came out. I saw it yesterday, and actually YouTube was trying to censor this video. It deleted several copies of this video. And it was a white man being beat up by a gang of black guys for voting for Trump. And, they're saying things like, oh, we caught a Trump, And, they really are. The racial tensions in our country have escalated since Trump was elected.
There were several trends on Twitter with 20,000 plus tweets in them of white people must die, go kill white people. The Trump supporters need to die. There's actually video evidence of people at these protests calling for people to die. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and I think, when you scratch under the surface, I mean, it's very easy to get emotive about these things. It's such a difficult and long and vicious campaign. But it's worth also remembering that, particularly these millennials. I mean, I'm sure the analogy of the frog in the kettle. There's a whole generation coming through who don't have a point of reference. They've been born into that kettle at 95 degrees, and these people are victims of aggressive social engineering. And we are the lucky ones, where we can cut through it and we can see through it. But there's a whole generation of people who are literally unwitting pawns in the game. They have been swallowed up by the machine, you know, sort of digested and adding nutrient and muscle to this monster. And, you know, so we're not just dealing with the conspirators themselves now, we're dealing with the fruits of the social engineering, you know, and I don't know, millions of particularly young people who just don't have a point of reference and believe all this nonsense and are totally and utterly brainwashed.
Yeah, that's a great point, because we're actually friends, you know, with a lot of liberals who are really kind people.
Sure.
They're just misguided. And the thing is, I think a lot of them go so, you know, hit this at full force because they genuinely believe it, and it fulfills them because it's a purpose that they believe is good. So we believe we're in the right and they believe they're in the right. You know, so it's just the lens that you're looking at through the world, that you're looking at the world through.
Yeah, I you know, I think, you know, hopefully over time that this can be turned around in the next 8 years by Trump being a lot better than he's been, you know, presented, by all the demonization of the aggressive liberal media, and that these people will see that he's not that bad, and that this brainwashing, some of it can be undone. Because as you said, I know some liberals, and it's not that they're, you know, deliberately trying to be defiant. These people have been damaged by this whole social engineering, and it's you know, they think that Hillary Clinton is their great champion. Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, George Soros, all the rest of them do not give one hoot about gay people, about transgender people, about black people. They are manipulative predators, as you know, who basically create and target them as voting blocks, and they're only interested in them for their vote and for the purposes of divide and conquer. So hopefully this can all be, you know, brought back in where there can be some sense. As you said, it's a lot of emotionalism, and some common sense can be brought, and also putting people, some money in people's pockets, because there's also a whole generation of people who have become dependent, you know, on the teat of mother state.
Yes. Yeah.
And they don't, you know, the whole idea of actually flourishing, you know, it's toxic to them. They think it's evil to, you know, to do well, and they just want to, you know, rely on the state for everything. And it just creates dependency, and it's not good for anybody.
Yeah. The system is very flawed right now. We need grave reforms, but it's going to take a while, because it's not just, you know, with the election, it was a great victory, but the culture war is still raging, and there is, you know, no victory in sight yet, and it's going to take many years, because when a generation is, you know, indoctrinated into this, you need to wait for the next generation in order to, you know,
reverse.
Yes, reverse it. It's going to take a long time, because it's very hard to make the vast majority of the liberals who have been indoctrinated into this ideology or narrative. It's very hard to convince them, you know, with facts and reason, to come on the other side, you know, to come over to your side. Every once in a while you get lucky, and it does happen, but they're very insistent, and, you know, then they'll utilize like confirmation bias and things like that, because they cannot possibly comprehend the fact that they might be wrong, and they've been lied to, you know, their whole life. Or
well, it would be devastating for them.
Yeah. So
yeah, well, as I say, I'm hoping that, you know, just the experience of Trump, because I mean, you guys are lucky in the US in one sense that you at least you have Fox News. In terms of main, because I mean, to do this job, I've got to, you know, I don't know how many news channels I've got, probably about 50 or something on my, you know, my television, as well as all the on you know, the online stuff, and Infowars, and, you know, Jeff Rants, and this show as well. But I need to keep an eye on mainstream media. But there in the UK, you know, it's amazing really that we actually got the Brexit, because the media over here is so liberal. Even Sky News, which is owned by Rupert Murdoch, who also owns Fox News, they are so left wing. I mean, after it became apparent that Clinton had lost, you know, they were interviewing distraught Clinton supporters afterwards, and again, just driving the rhetoric, you know, and the narrative. You know, they weren't asking how they felt. The questions were, "You must be very scared now."
Oh yes, exactly. Yeah. Well, the MSM has painted Trump as, you know, the next coming of Hitler. Basically, they have genuinely the amount of misinformation and deliberate lies they have spread has just ramped up this intense fear around him. Like, you know, that suddenly he's going to go out and, you know, he's going to go out ordering the deaths of gay people. I mean, I don't understand where any of this is coming from, like where they're hearing it, but they are genuinely terrified, these people. There were like videos coming out of like crowds of them like crying and like, fearing for their lives. And we're, just kind of sitting back and scratching our heads like, what are you thinking? Where's this coming from? It is the mainstream media. It's something they've been working this whole thing to put together, and now it's taking effect because Trump's won.
Yeah,
so
I had exactly the same feeling when I watched it. It's just like two different realities. I was thinking, do these guys really think that Trump is maybe going to sort of make a phone call to the media tonight? Now that I've won, round up all the gays and the Muslims and the Mexicans and and put them into concentration camps or something. It's just like, you guys really need to. It's interesting because I noticed there was an employer sort of poll did by employers in the U.S. And it polled basically among millennials that the biggest problem was something like 65% reported that the biggest problem with them was an inability for critical thinking. And number two was a lack of attention to detail. And number two to me, number one's obvious basically, but number two would explain why the Barack Obama's popularity ratings is so high after 8 years of that nonsense, because they're such a meretricious, the culture's become so meretricious that they're not interested in anything substantial. He comes out there, he looks like he's a man of the people, he's quite cool, isn't he? But they just ignore the irony of the Hitler-style executive order after executive order after executive order.
Exactly. I mean, there are many people, I've seen them all over. They're just like, we just want to keep Obama forever. And I'm like, oh my gosh, are you, no, please. But also, I mean, another point to bring up is Assange has been dropping WikiLeaks for the past 5 weeks. We still have another 5 weeks to go. But the evidence against the DNC that has come out against Hilary Clinton's whole campaign, it's like a smoking gun. They're all in it together. They're all colluding with one another, but they just ignore the evidence. And so it's like, what more can you do?
It's unbelievable. Even the mainstream media, again over here, and not just the mainstream media, but people, basically the WikiLeaks have just confirmed what we've all been saying for the last God knows how many years, and they've been branding us as conspiracy theorist freaks. And then the WikiLeaks come out, as you quite rightly point out, the collusion, the sort of contempt and the pejorative attitude towards Catholics and towards Christians, the collusion with the, what's her name, the CNN given the questions.
That's her, Donna Brazile, yeah.
Brazile, John Podesta. I mean, and then you've got, and I want to get to this, you've got this, I think you guys have talked about this David Brock and Comet Ping Pong stuff, which gets very sinister.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Let me read you this, guys. I covered this earlier in the year. British police this is an article in Independent. British police are alleged to have covered up cases of child sex abuse perpetrated by VIPs over a 40-year period. The Independent Police Complaints Commission, IPCC, has launched 14 new inquiries into Metropolitan Police conduct. The IPC has now 45 investigations into alleged police cover-ups underway, all of which involve prominent individuals in British society. They also share in common allegations of corruption in the Metropolitan Police Service relating to child sex offences dating from the 1970s to the 2000s. They all concern allegations of suppressing evidence, hindering or halting investigations, or covering up alleged offences because of the involvement of prominent individuals or police officers. And you can be guaranteed that probably at least 50% of them are well-known members of Parliament.
Yeah, for sure. What kind of we've actually been, to be honest, very involved in this whole, alleged pedophile ring, and, which is also attached to, the occultist spirit cooking rituals they've been doing. We have hope, though, because Trump was elected, and I don't think he's going to let this fly, especially if there's hard evidence presented, because it's too disturbing. It's too blatant. There's so many things going on. There's so many people right now on Reddit, 4chan, 8chan that are privately, just private citizens investigating this on their own and finding all this information. And it's really disturbing. To be honest, what happened is a couple days before the election, the whole spirit cooking thing broke. It came out in the WikiLeaks emails, and then people started digging, and they found out, all these really, disturbing videos and photographs of people connected to Hilary Clinton, Tony Podesta, Marina Abramovic, is that how you say her name? Many people connected to the Clintons who were involved in this. And even Abedin, which was quite interesting. And so people have taken it upon themselves now to investigate this, and they're just coming out with so much evidence and information. And I mean, I really hope that something can be done about this, because it's really disturbing. And the people involved in it are so blatant about it. It's almost like they have to be bragging, about the things they're doing. So, I mean, that just leaves a trail of evidence for us. So we've been working with a lot of people, most of them anonymous sources, not willing to give their names, but we'll see where it goes. We actually did a segment about it on InfoWars during the 52-hour live broadcast right before the election. It was on Monday. So we got into a lot of details about that. And it was interesting because a lot of people hadn't even heard about it yet. But
it's a huge problem. I mean, it all ties into this whole human trafficking, this global human trafficking network as well. And they get very vulnerable people and a lot of vulnerable women as well. Out of a difficult situation where they currently are, they bring them into another country, and they basically they've got no rights, they've got no anything, and they become just totally drugged up. And they become sex slaves. In fact, this actually, there was a case of this. I live in England now, but I'm originally from Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
And there was a case in Belfast where there was Eastern European drug gangs in there which were doing a lot of human trafficking. And even the police and even the paramilitaries, the IRA and the loyalist paramilitaries over there, they were even intimidated by them, to the point that it actually took some off-duty cops to sort of take it into their own hands, and to try and deal with these guys. But I mean, what you're finding in the WikiLeaks is a whole big satanic, occultic sort of pedophilia ring. I mean, the British monarchy, has been well, it's well documented that they have been up to their neck in the occult, spiritualists and witchcraft. And all this sort of stuff, and in the higher echelons of society, that article I just read you, for some reason I don't understand it myself, but these people really seem to get off on homosexuality and pedophilia.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, it's all there. And I mean, if anything positive has come out of this whole discovery, it's that apparently it significantly damaged Hillary Clinton's campaign. She lost a lot of the Latino vote.
Through the spirit
cooking, a lot of things. So I know they had to pay big money to try and cover it up and to temper the damage. But so that was a really that was a positive, because we're freaked out by that.
Just for our listeners, guys, who aren't as familiar with this whole issue of the spirit cooking, I know you guys have been doing a lot of work on the WikiLeaks emails, and you've been seeing various connections and threads and stuff. Just try and break down what you have actually discovered for anyone unfamiliar with this whole issue, and what this spirit cooking thing is.
Okay, so the spirit cooking it's kind of, I mean, I'm not really sure. It's like this weird ritual where they paint all these, words on the wall in blood. They use a lot of blood for it. So this is like the main thing. And there are a lot of pictures of this floating around like right now, with a lot of people implicated. They're at these, kind of ritual things, like from Hugh Jackman to Lady Gaga. They're there. They'll like lay humans in like a vat of like blood, or sometimes they're mannequins, and then they'll cut them up and just do really disturbing things. It's all very, obviously satanic, and there's a lot of symbolism with it. So basically this is kind of the spirit cooking, but on the other side, there is what we found in the WikiLeaks emails were, dozens and dozens of keywords, from like pizza to hot dog or to handkerchief. And in the way that they're used, in the context, that they are talking about something sexually related. And a lot of people have been investigating these words. And, like at this point, a lot of people believe that pizza refers to like little boy, or I believe that's what it is. And so when you read these WikiLeaks emails and kind of put it together, and then you connect people attached to them, like for example, Tony Podesta will be talking about the pizza in one of his emails, and then we have connected him to a man named James Alefantis, who is the one who owns Comet Ping Pong, which is allegedly a restaurant where you eat pizza and play ping pong in the basement.
But it's likely to be a pedophilia center, yeah?
Yeah, people found his Instagram, which is highly disturbing, this man's Instagram. And he set it to private shortly after, but a lot of his Instagram posts were archived. So you can go and, if you're interested, you can go on Twitter, or Reddit or 4chan, 8chan, wherever you want. You can find archives of these Instagram posts, which are highly disturbing. You will tag, murder in the posts, or he'll tag.
Okay, so, sorry to interrupt. We're going to break for about 5 minutes, guys, but I'll see you on the other side for the last half hour.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen, you're back with me here on Revolution Radio. I'm Paul Stevenson, your host, and I was just talking to Brittany and Nicole Pettibone. You guys back with me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so, I mean, we haven't even got to your book yet, but this stuff's very interesting, just the whole spirit. It's funny because when I first got into this, it really pricked my interest, the spiritual angle of all this. I ended up eventually becoming a Christian, whereas before I probably wouldn't have done. When I looked at this stuff and I thought, why are these guys worshiping Moloch, an Old Testament Amorite god? And I thought, oh, okay, these guys really take it seriously and they know where they're getting the power from. And I started thinking, well, it's quite clear that the bad guy in the Bible seems to be pretty real. I wonder, is the good guy real as well,
Exactly. And actually, spirit cooking, so by the Satanist Aleister Crowley.
Sure.
So yeah, it's basically a sacrament in the religion of Thelma. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, Thelema or something. But basically, they use menstrual blood, breast milk, urine, and sperm to create a painting. So that's what they've been using to do all these paintings. And the woman, Marina Abramovic, basically, she said if the ritual is performed in an art gallery, then it's art. So it's performance art. But if it's performed privately, as they were doing in the WikiLeaks, it's some kind of intimate spiritual ceremony. So
the Bible outlines that worship to Moloch. They used to do child sacrifices to Moloch. Actually, they would build an altar and they would put fire under it. It'd be so hot. And then they would put the baby on the altar, which would be so hot it would be burning. And what they used to do, they'd have loud parties and orgies so they wouldn't hear the crying of the baby, but they used to sacrifice babies to Moloch, and they're still doing it. This whole, what we would call New World Order, there's nothing new about it. This whole rebellion against God and anything godly, this attacking their family and all this stuff, it's been going on, as far as I can tell, from when man began. They go underground and then they come back and they're defeated and then they come back. They're like parasites, and it's like a death culture that they're into death and satanic, horrible.
Yeah, exactly. And we've been asleep too long in our country. We've let these people take over and infiltrate. So it's like, thank God for Donald Trump, because honestly, if it weren't for him, where we'd have Hillary in office, or somebody, that was just a globalist as well. So it's really it came out of nowhere, and it's been such a gift.
Yeah, and it has come out of nowhere, and I think it is actually God's work, because I'll tell you what, 18 months ago, I couldn't see how there was going to be any other alternative apart from Hilary Clinton. And to me, it is a kind of I see it as the work of God, because it just seems kind of miraculous. This inexorable sort of movement spearheaded by Donald Trump has just come out of nowhere. And it's just like, knocked the establishment out cold. You know, in such a short period of time. My only concern is that, you know, and I've been talking to other people who are concerned about it as well, that, you know, once he starts exercising and dismantling the establishment, you know, properly, when he gets into power, will it be a Kennedy job? Because Kennedy was the last real president who was uncompromised, I think. I mean, he obviously, they controlled him through his sex addiction and things like that, but you know, his father had enough money where they could, you know, they could push him forward without having to take, you know, special interest money. But they still got rid of him for, you know, because he was standing on a lot of toes. And I'll tell you, I just hope, you know, Donald Trump's security is right up there, because.
Yeah, well, I think the difference now is that the population is awake. I mean, the amount of people that have awoken during this election is absolutely incredible. So we're not going to allow them to just take down Donald Trump without a fight. You know, they can't just assassinate him and then, you know, put it off as an accident and then we, you know, all go back to sleep, or we turn, you know, a blind eye. It's not going to happen.
Obviously, it's a possibility. I know Alex Jones just released a video saying that he thinks the elites are going to try to assassinate Trump. I mean, we've always considered it as a possibility. Like, hopefully to God it does not happen. But like my sister was saying, we're not going to just pass it off as, oh, you know, people are going to take a stand.
Yes, so. And you know, it's and the wonderful thing is as well, it's such a gift, because we not only have Donald Trump, but you've got a majority in the Congress, both in the House and the Senate, so he can actually get things done.
Exactly.
You know, and also, I mean, if he does a good job, I mean, which I think he will, you know, one of the things I was so looking forward to for Trump to be getting in is just to see him doing what he likes to do. He's a builder. It appeals to him. He genuinely does want to make America great again. It's not just a slogan. He wants to revive it and give something back, and he wants to sort of build the infrastructure and get the people. You know, he gets a buzz out of, you know, extrapolating people's talent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can kind of look at it this way. He's kind of more about combining and growing. And if you look at Obama's presidency and the way that Hillary ran her campaign, it was about dividing and conquering. You know, there's so much divisiveness and division between us and Hillary supporters, because of the way they, you know, there's a lot of people who, you know, have been sainted victims, you know, like the Black Lives Matter was just completely criminal, that ideology, you know, that it was not the way to solve the problems of the Black people who are suffering in our country. It was,
well, you saw their actions, rioting, the violence.
Yeah.
So
it,
again, they've been manipulated, and you know the stats don't add up, because most of the Black victims are occurring at the hands of the Black people themselves, and how through the popular culture in the music, rap music, and Hollywood, they glamorize violence and drugs, and these kids are growing up, you know, looking up to these fools. And they're getting involved in violence and and gangs, and they're killing their own people. And then George Soros comes in and manipulates them and says that it's the white people's fault, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is Trump's movement is just so much fun. There are so many people who have just joined it because it's a place, you know, like they see the good in it, but it's also a place that you genuinely will be accepted and belong.
And it's so positive.
Yeah, it's very positive. It's very happy. The sense of humor is just wonderful. They're some of the most funny people you'll ever meet. So a lot of kids like in college or high school, whatever, who've kind of been ostracized, like if they disagreed with feminism or Black Lives Matter, etc. They've all come and joined this because they've been rejected. So it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And we've actually had a lot of college, and high school students reach out to us. And, so we've kind of been talking to them about the whole thing, and it's getting bigger. People are waking up.
Yeah, because it's essentially it's a nationalist populist movement, and this international clique, these globalists, what they despise more than anything, is nationalism and unity, and which Donald Trump represents. And because these people are just parasites with no fixed abode, and they just go around sucking a country dry of its assets, its industry, and its morality and its people. And you're seeing the five-star movement in Italy growing. You've got the Danish People's Party. You've got Marine Le Pen, who's very popular now in France. And this populist movement is an uprising against this internationalism, this globalism. And I'll tell you another thing. I think it's also God having mercy on those people in the Middle East, because, the sad thing is, for those of us who are informed, we know that the US government and its foreign policy has not been representative of the American people. We know that the whole political institution has been taken over by a bunch of, by a criminal syndicate, and they are just causing so much chaos and misery in the Middle East. And I just hope that Donald Trump, pulls out of Syria, works alongside Putin and cleans up ISIS, and then just leave that area alone and just sort out America, which is seems to be his motto, and stop waging war right across the world all the time. It's making America very unpopular.
Oh my gosh, we know. Yeah, but I mean, tensions, I think, Putin announced the other day, that he's looking forward to working with America under a Trump presidency. And, we heard a lot of chatter coming out of Russia about how if Hillary was elected, there would almost definitely be war with Russia. And for no good reason. It would have been ridiculous. There were a lot of people talking to me, and they would say stuff like, if there was a war with Russia, I'm not going. I'm not going to go fight for globalist greed. This isn't about, protecting our country. It's about our country, sticking their hand where they shouldn't have. And now, we potentially could have a war over it. So that was, the general consensus in the ring, the social rings that I'm in. But now, I really think that Putin was smart. He was really smart about it. He knew there's a good chance Trump could be elected. Let's just, wait it out, because the U.S. has been goading them for a while. I just wanted to add one more thing. The whole thing about Russia allegedly rigging our election and hacking us and all that. There was absolutely no proof for any of this. And Hillary would mention it in debates, to the world. It was just, they went that far. It was ridiculous.
It was a total joke. And, quite frankly, I don't care if it was Mickey Mouse that exposed, was releasing those emails. It's the content that's in them that's important, and Putin himself came on record and said he's not, America's not a banana republic, and we have not been involved in this. But Trump said on his foreign policy, he said, we're going to finally, I've got a copy of his speech in front of me, he said, we're going to finally have a coherent foreign policy based upon American interests and the shared interests of our allies. We are getting out of the nation building business and instead focusing on creating stability in the world. And that's all Putin wants. He just wants a fair, reasonable geopolitical situation where there's a healthy balance of power, because Putin knows it's only these neocons, and the state of Israel's got a lot to answer for as well, that are driving these wars. And no sensible person can see what good would come from Russia going to war with the US. It's just a nightmare.
Well, the anti-Russian propaganda in our country is just rampant. And, most people don't know, they look at Putin as a dictator, despite him being, democratically elected, and his approval rating is overwhelming. It's something like, 87%? It's around there. It's incredibly high. And you just look at it, well, why do they love him? And you can examine it yourself. You can go on YouTube and watch a lot of, his translations of his, videos and talks and stuff. And you just know he genuinely cares for his country and his people and putting their good first. Yeah. And it's been us that has been in the wrong. Not necessarily our country, it's our government. And so we need to kind of purge it. And we have a lot of hope for that now, because Trump's been elected and he has a great team around him that he's going to put together. And so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Also, it's still very fresh in the memory of Putin and the Russian Federation of what these same internationalists and these globalists did to Russia with the horror show of Bolshevism in the 20th century. And they would be, if you had, you mentioned the Supreme Court in there earlier, it's ostensibly irrevocable damage if Clinton had have got in there and got a hold of the put in her judges in the Supreme Court. And, it's not an exaggeration to say that that they would just take you into a communist totalitarian nightmare like Bolshevism, because it's the same people that orchestrated it are doing the same thing in the US and are trying to do it on a global scale.
Yeah, well, the left has been, it almost seems daily. They're becoming more and more radicalized. It's like you say one thing that you disagreeing with them, and suddenly it's hate speech. And so at what point would it have gotten to under a Hillary Clinton presidency? If you disagree or don't follow, the politically correct narrative, what are you going to be imprisoned? Are you going to be banned from all internet? Like at what point it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And another thing is like the most extreme part of the left, it seems like, is the most widely, covered. It's given the stage. The MSM, caters to them and coddles them, and so you see it all. And there's not really room for another perspective. They're not showing it. They're just showing you that one angle. This is how it is, and kind of shaping people's minds and all the information they receive. So they're eventually the MSM can basically know how you react to it because they know all the information that because they've given it to you. You're not going to know anything else.
Well,
so
exactly. Yeah. And they control it. They control it. The language is key. You have the stuff that comes out. Drive through the curricula, and the safe space and hate speech, and they just become accepted norms because of repetition, and they just control the language, and all of a sudden you've got all these terms that that are so deeply embedded in your psyche now that 5 years ago you'd never even heard of.
Yeah, exactly. We're definitely in an information war right now. That's what it is. The culture war and information war. The alternative media is just fighting tooth and nail against the mainstream media in our country right now. And it was such a victory for the alt media when Trump won. I mean, because they've done such hard work on Trump's campaign. I mean, it's not even just for Trump, though. They were presenting the facts objectively, and they were the only ones. I know, from the UK, you've got Paul Watson, who is such an asset to this. He really made an impact, and we're really grateful to him for that. So yeah, it's a war of information, and there's this network that's formed on Twitter of these massive, patriotic, pro-Trump accounts that have just exploded during the Trump campaign, and they've done a lot of help, setting the false narratives right, what the MSM is reporting on, and then they'll challenge it, interrogate those facts, and kind of make a fool out of the MSM publicly and exposing their lies. So they've been such an asset, and I think they are largely responsible for Trump being able to pull this off.
Yeah, it took basically Trump, WikiLeaks, a little bit of help. We have to say a little bit of help from the FBI. I don't think they intended that, but it didn't do any harm.
There's also Guccifer, who hacked the DNC. He did the DNC leaks too. Allegedly, it was Guccifer.
Some people say it was him, but others have this theory that there was a soft coup in our government, and that it was actually people within our government who did not want to watch our country basically be destroyed through Hillary being elected, so they actually released information.
Yeah, so we don't really know.
So that's another theory, and
there are good people in the FBI.
It seems like it could. When you think about it, it seems like a definite possibility.
Yeah, I mean, there certainly are, still good people, I would imagine, in the FBI, and they were finding this stuff just intolerable, and it did no harm. But I remember the last time I interviewed Gerald Celente, he said, mainstream media is dying. What you're doing and others, it's the new media, because there is a tsunami now, an explosion. Obviously, your own, sort of popularity, and it's growing very quickly. It shows you that there's an appetite for people who are, talented and who've got courage, who've got heart, and are able to cut through this stuff and present it. Because you have to go to these platforms to get real news, because all you're going to get is mainstream media propaganda all the time. And 10 years from now, hopefully you guys and myself and stuff, hopefully we'll be like the mainstream media properly. There's a lot of networking going on between people. There's a lot of ideas coming up. I'm hoping eventually, 5 years from now, to go in to have my own TV channel type thing, and just to grow it, and really sort of grow it, because it's an exciting time, and who knows what's going to, where we'll all be in 5 or 10 years time,
Yeah, there most certainly is a demand for that, for the alt media, like there was never before, because people see how biased CNN, they call it the Clinton News Network, they see how biased these MSM medias are. So, you know, places like Breitbart, Drudge, Zero Hedge, they're just blowing up over the election. And InfoWars too. InfoWars has absolutely exploded. You know, a lot of people used to just write Alex Jones off as a conspiracy theorist. He has a dedicated fan base now, a very large one. Same with Paul Watson, because he's part of InfoWars. But there's definitely a demand for it, and people are ready to accept anyone who's willing to, you know, go out there and actually present the facts.
Yeah, as I say, it is an exciting time, and it'll also be good for economically for this country as well, because the relations between the US. I mean, the UK would be, you know, its biggest partner in exports and imports would be the US, I think. So there'll be a knock-on effect if there's just, you know, if Trump does. I'm actually thinking of like applying for a green card and see if I can go out. See if I.
He's like, if Trump wins, I'm moving to America.
So I've been saying if Trump wins, I'm going to America and make some money, you know.
Yes, come on over.
But listen, let's just talk quickly about your book. I'm interested in what were the themes in your book, do you think, that were causing you to be in conflict with the publishing establishments for this type of genre? What were the main themes of your book, do you think, if any, that actually, you know, would cause them to have an issue with you?
Well, number one, we're very anti-globalist, and that's a theme in our book. So there's a lot of large powers, you know, we kind of present it, we call it the new global union in our book, and as our series goes on, it's very vilified.
So that was the end of your publishing career right there then.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing is, when you write about something like a one world government, I mean, we were still censoring ourselves. It was like, oh, we couldn't do that. You know, that's too obvious that we're on to them. But then we just kind of figured, wait a minute, why? What is the point of being a writer if you're going to censor yourself? It's a paradox. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
So we decided, we had about 6 agents interested at one point in us, and we ended up just going our own way and self-publishing because we wanted to do it on our own and on our own terms. And then we were planning, okay, if we start selling really well, then we can approach a publisher, you know, and go directly to one. So that was the plan for a while. But then, you know, from day one, we've been watching the election, you know, like a hawk, reading the news every night, being really involved. It's just not publicly until 1 month ago. We decided, you know, kind of screw it. We're going out, you know, if Hillary wins, there's no point in having, you know, a writing career anymore because we could potentially go to war with Russia, etc. So we decided to come out, just speak our mind, and the whole community was really welcoming, the Trump community, amazing, InfoWars included. So then now we're just deciding that we will keep writing books on our own, self-published. There are actually a couple publishing houses which are conservative that, you know, the right has started. So we may approach them and, you know, see if we can strike a deal there. But as far as our book 1, which we released, it's pretty blatant, I would say. But I mean, there are still a lot of things that we censored that we would have said had we come out for Trump before. Because, yeah, we've been very, you know, interested in, you know, the concept of a one world government for so many years and believed that that is the end goal. So as the series progresses, though, we're definitely going to get more blatant about it now because we have no reason to censor ourselves.
Yeah, and it's exactly the same in the music industry. I mean, I write songs as well. And, you know, I remember, you know, earlier on in my songwriting career, you know, talking to some people and stuff. And you know, at the time, I didn't realize, you know, I wasn't quite aware of the social engineering and the narrative. But, you know, through the publishing houses, through the music industry, if you do not give them the crap that they want to drive the culture, and to create the false matrix, if you're not on board with the social engineering, then they're not interested. You could be Mozart, you could be whoever, and they're not interested in talent. They're interested in as much debauchery. I mean, look at, you know, when I was in the tube in London, you know, about 3 months ago, you know, I don't know how, you know, that book, what's it called? You know, what's that? It exploded.
50 Shades of Grey, that one?
50 Shades of Grey, a lot of middle class, sort of really respectable women reading this book. And yet, then they come out and demonize Donald Trump.
Yes, oh my God.
And you guys promote, you're sitting there reading essentially soft porn, a dominant authoritarian man. They're such double standard hypocrites.
Yep.
Yeah. But it's really sad, you know, how they're controlling all the art, you know, the music, the literature, everything that is being read, especially by the youth. In young adult, we see it. You know, they're controlling everything that gets published. And it's so sad because actual true talent, really great ideas, you know, just so much is just being stifled.
Yeah.
And you wonder,
I mean, we were actually friends with a lot of, you know, bigger authors, you know, like New York Times best-selling authors in the industry. And we had contacts with them. And, you know, when we came out for Trump, one by one, they unfollowed us. And, you know, but if you examine their books, all of them are catering to the narrative in one way or another. Every single one. And so, you know, if you're honest enough with yourself, you have to just look at it and wonder why.
I know.
You know, like because they have all these rules, originality is dying because you have a checklist. So there's no, you know, passion and inspiration and creativity anymore because it's all being just has to fit into this cookie cutter mold.
But it's really also, there's something else I noticed. A lot of these New York Times bestsellers, which are catering to the narrative, they're also being attacked by their own readers when they don't include enough diversity or whatever it is that the readers want. It's very like aggressive and violent almost that we see.
Guys, I'm going to go to break. I don't know where you want to come back for 10 minutes on the other side, and we'll just give details about your book and stuff. Because I think do you have 10 minutes on the other side?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I always get it wrong. You know, it's just I'm always talking to people. Like, every time I do my show, I must, you know, speak before the music comes on. Because then it just like cuts out and you get onto a thread. And if we have 10 minutes on the other side, we can wrap things up properly. All right?
Wonderful. Sounds good.
Because as I say, you can continue anyway for now, because as I say, it's just the music. I think it comes on, the ads come on about 5 to. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's the same with the music industry as well. You know, I think there's something like 6 music producers in the music industry today that produce all the big records. That's why they sound all the same.
.com, and we'll be right back after this message. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hi, and welcome back to this week's live broadcast. I'm your host, Paul Stevenson, here on Revolution Radio. I'm on Facebook at Paul Edward Stevenson. I'm on Twitter at Paul E. Stevenson. I must admit, I don't really use Twitter that much. I should do, but and we are with Brittany and Nicole Pettibone. You guys there?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right. So yeah, I was interested. We didn't get to it. I was just interested because I know your book was like, it's sort of science fiction, sort of dystopian kind of territory, isn't it? It's sort of set 2050s, 2052 or something like that.
Yes.
Can you encapsulate it? You know, when I studied literature at school, we had 3 criteria: what's the book about, what's it really about, and what is the author trying to communicate? What is your message? Can you do that in 10 minutes?
We'll see. I know it's always very difficult to describe what our book's about, but essentially it is equal parts science fiction and equal parts fantasy, because we have humans, which are technologically advanced, and that's where the science fiction comes in. And so it's 2052, and then we have a race called inborns, which look like humans, but they all have different powers, and they're, you know, divided into 5 different groups, and they're the fantasy side. And so they're at war with the humans, and they have been ever since they came through a portal to Earth, which a couple decades before the book takes place. So essentially what the book is about is a girl named Snowfrid, who is half human, half inborn. And she is, in the beginning of the book, it's discovered that she's lost her memories. And so she has to go on that journey of rediscovering who she is. Plus she is recruited to be the bait in a hunt, because her ability is healing. So she is recruited to be the bait in a hunt, this large, like, legendary great hunt. And you find out that there's way more behind this hunt, you know, than first meets the eye, and why they're hunting this creature. And yeah, so that's the basic through line. But then we have, you know, there's a lot of subplots and things, like, because they're still at war with humans, and then the hunt is more on the inborn side. And so,
So the reason it's called Hatred Day is because Hatred Day is the anniversary of the day which the inborn aliens came to Earth, and the humans and inborns hate each other. So that's kind of where it kicks off.
And is there a globalist theme to this in terms of a global, one world government takeover type thing?
The humans have a one world government. So we have like 3 families that are huge, these human families that are really rich and pretty much own everything. They've consolidated everything. So that's on the human side, the one world government. And then on the inborn side.
A plutocracy.
It's
the inborn side.
Yeah, it's a plutocracy. So
kind of a Nephilim type thing, half human and half sort of something from alien species, yeah?
Yeah, so they look like humans. The difference is that they have powers. So that's all. But we're going to explore it all more as the series goes on. So you kind of meet the human side and the inborn side in book 1. Book 2 is going to be more strictly inborn. Book 3 is almost completely human. And so you'll see, their one world government and, how it runs and all the players and stuff. But we've taken many years to build all this up and put it together. So, we just have to be, writing it. And,
how does the writing process work between you both? Do you write together and bounce off each other? Or do you go in separate and write something? And how does that work?
We discuss everything in outline beforehand. And then usually one of us will write one perspective and the other one serves as editor. So in book 2, we have several perspectives. So we kind of just divvy them up. And it actually, we work really well together. I think it's because we've been doing this project for so many years. It's coming up on almost 10 now. So we know everything inside out and back,
backwards pretty much.
So, it works pretty well.
Yeah, and I mean, where in the U.S. are you?
California.
Whereabouts in California?
In the Bay
Area.
All right, well, it's a lovely part of the world, isn't it? And obviously, it's very liberal too.
Yeah, there were a lot of protests. Even in Oakland was one of the protests. That's not far from where we are. Yeah. So. What
are your friends saying about this? I mean, I've kind of lost friends. I've had a couple of friends. One guy in particular came out and said, at least the one good thing about Facebook, I know which of my friends are racist. He hasn't replied to me since. I was right thinking it was me he was talking about.
Please.
No, this is a guy I used to do music with. Just because I support Trump, I'm a racist. And I guess you guys have had a similar thing, or I mean, are you finding that, because you mentioned that when you were looking at these WikiLeaks and stuff, you've got other people on board working with you and stuff?
Yeah, we have a couple people who have chosen to remain anonymous, and so there's a couple different groups of anonymous people that we're working with, some from like 8chan, and some from a social media called Gab, which was created by a man named Andrew Torba to combat the crackdown on free speech. So it's a completely free speech platform, and it serves as an alternate Twitter to people who would like to, speak freely. So it's in beta testing mode right now, but you can sign up, and there are several thousand people on it already, and it's a lot of fun. But as far as people who've cut us off, we have a new editor right now, and we've been working with him for a couple of years. But the editor we initially worked with when we were like 16, when she found out we were voting for Trump, she blocked us on Facebook, like wrote like a mean comment, and then blocked us so we couldn't even reply.
Yeah, but we've known her since we were really young. Yeah. So that was the weird thing is we always tolerated her beliefs. We were friends on Facebook. The children we babysat, her children, they went to the same school, so we'd see her at school. And so, but yeah, we could tolerate her saying whatever, but she just couldn't tolerate us. And it was just really telling. Also, one of our cousins completely unfollowed us. So there have been people that have been not too kind, but then there's also, on the other hand, been a lot of really, really supportive people.
Yeah, to be honest, it doesn't even matter because we've made so many like wonderful, amazing friends that are genuine, and that we actually have things in common with. And so we're in no way are we regretful or, put down in the least by this. We're really happy.
Yeah, real people and like-minded people. That's one of the beauties of all this movement. You get people coming out, and you can meet new people who are of like mind and are, who are sick and tired of all this stuff and are interested in a better culture, interested in a better way, future for the next generation, and to really get involved. And I mean, the irony is, as you said,
you know, these people are always spouting how intolerant we are.
Mm-hmm.
I've had the same thing. You know, the great irony of double standard is they are extremely intolerant.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, it's the intolerance of intolerance, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, they demanded tolerance, you know, before because they were, you know, not the dominant presence. But as soon as they got that tolerance and it was normalized, and then, you know, it started to grow larger, now they do not tolerate us. So it's just kind of a hypocritical thing.
Yeah, we'll tolerate you as long as you agree with us.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, as I say, you know, it's the same with, you know, this whole culture thing. I mean, you'll find, I actually spoke to the producer of this show about the owner and producer about maybe having a music hour where I would get people to send in, you know, people who are, you know, doing really original art. And you know, new songs and, you know, good stuff and good quality music that people, you know, are struggling to get through. But there's a bit of a problem when it comes to music because of copyright and things like that. So it's a bit difficult, he said. You need to get disclaimers from people and all that. I mean, I don't think it's that big a deal, but I don't want to push him on it too much. But it's quite, you know, it's something I'm thinking about maybe doing on a different platform.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, wow.
You know, to get people, yeah, literally, because, you know, people are sick of the music industry, and you know, and it's just like the same old crap coming out. There was a point, in, you know, in the UK in the 60s and the 70s, that there was genuine, and to a certain extent, the 90s a little bit. There was some genuine, you know, anti-establishment stuff came out, but all those guys have all been consolidated into the establishment anyway.
Yeah, and they're just helping with the brainwashing.
Yeah,
the amount of celebrities that came out and were, you know, campaigning for Hillary.
They were basically ordering us to vote for Hillary.
Yeah.
It was almost like that. It wasn't like, you know, you look at the facts and make your objective choice. I mean, it was like, you need to vote for Hillary. This is the most important decision of your life, blah, 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 blah. And it was like, whoa, you know, something's wrong here. What gives them the idea that they think they can make, you know, tell us who to vote for? It was YouTube too. There were a lot of YouTubers doing that.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And that, you know, that moron George Clooney, who can't even act anyway, he came out. I put it up on Facebook, and you know, once it sort of dawned on everyone that Trump was going to win it, I put it up on Facebook where George Clooney, you know, smugly and arrogantly said, you know, Donald Trump isn't going to be president. You know, the people aren't going to have they don't like all this hate. So I stuck that little clip up on YouTube just as it dawned on the world that Trump was going to be the president. And
yeah, it just shows you how out of touch everyone, you know, they all are with the American people. Yeah, and it seems like maybe they were brainwashed by the mainstream media as well, because they were all just as shocked. We actually were quite confident that Trump would win, at least in our family. You know, my dad was always like, he's going to win. He's going to win, because there were lots of people doing polling on the side, because all these polls were so fake. Like Bill Mitchell, Roger Stone, they were just on this, and they knew.
It was the same phenomenon, I think, as Brexit. The polls didn't take into consideration the silent, not necessarily the silent majority, because there were still a lot of people who were very vocal and, you know, and revealing for Trump, but there was a silent sufficient number, and I think probably quite a lot of them, even women, ironically, who went in with their little liberal groups pretending they're voting for Hillary, and then hit the Trump button. And you know, there was enough of those people to come out to make a huge difference. As I say, the parallels between the Brexit couldn't be more striking. And but you know, you're lucky in a way, because you know, we're still wrestling with trying to negotiate the best terms, to get out of the EU, and it gets complex. And they try and confuse people with the complexities of it, and you have to be really monitoring them all the time to see what they're doing, because they're trying to manipulate it to really water down the effect of the Brexit. Whereas you guys have come in there, you've got a new president. You've got the real deal there. Well, hopefully is, and you know, you've got a united Congress both in the Senate and in the House. But hopefully that will actually flood, because you've had all these sycophants over here that initially were criticizing Trump and calling him a racist and stuff, and you can see them all backtracking now. They're such, you know,
sycophant. That was great to see. So many, you know, of these Republicans are like, oh, well, you know, I'll support Trump now. It's like, get out. No.
Yeah, if I was Trump, I would be saying, no, you're done.
Yeah, he's keeping the ones that have remained loyal, like Ben Carson.
He needs loyalty, definitely.
He needs this really solid base around him that just, you know, they're going to just drive it home, and they have no ulterior motives. So he needs to be very careful with who he trusts, I think.
And the exciting thing is that, you know, if he does a good job for 4 years and has another 4 years, you've got a very good man in Mike Pence who could take over, or you've got two sons there, two Trump boys.
Yeah,
who are not only, they're not only going to have the experience in business, but after 8 years or 4 years of their father doing this, they're going to know the intimate, workings of governing.
Exactly. And if Trump does a good job, people will be more likely to trust his sons or whoever.
Or to elect someone at least like him.
Who he endorses later.
Yeah, who works with him.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, it was great to talk to you. Do you want to give out your Facebook, your Twitters, where people can get your book?
Yeah, sure. On Twitter, I am at Britt Pettibone, so BRITT and then PETTIBONE. And Nicole is
I'm at Nicole Pettibone, and the spelling of Nicole is NICOLE.
Yeah, and then as for Facebook, we share one actually. The name of it is Brittany Nicole Pettibone. So I'm sure if you type that in, we'll pop up somewhere. But if you find our Twitter or if you find our YouTube channel, which is just called Brittany and Nicole, there's links to all the different social medias we have, including Instagram, and so they're all connected. So I'm sure it won't be too hard.
Okay, great. Yeah. Well, I hope you're sort of getting as well known for being writers now as being, political and cultural commentators and analysts and.
It's been really fast. If anyone is interested in our book, you can get it on Amazon online,
and it's a Kindle, a paperback, or there's an Audible.
Yeah, copy. It's on Audible as well, and then or you can get it on Barnes and Noble online. So those are the places right now, just if anyone's interested.
Okay, and hopefully, if we do it again, I promise to read your book, and for the next time, as I say, it's there's a lot of networking going on with people who are like mine, so I'm hoping we can stay in touch and have you on again.
Great, for sure. Thank you so much, Paul.
It's been wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, well, listen, God bless the both of you. Stay safe.
Yeah, you as well.
You as well.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
The gram meters.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio, taking the confusion out of transmutated lunar girdle springs for 4 years and running. Revolution Radio, the #1 listener-supported alternative media radio on the planet.